Welcome to Class 4. This class we're going to cover Chapter 6, which covers linking. So, obviously this is a huge part of what we do. Our websites are more than likely containing multiple pages. Yes, you might have a website that has a one-page scrolling or parallax layout, but regardless, even if you did, you'd still have to link to elements within that one long scrolling page. So to do this, we use an anchor element, which is the A tag. And it has an attribute which is incredibly important, and it's called the href. And it's the reference of where the person will go, the user, when they click on the elements in the middle. So here we see on the bottom tag, you see click here. That's what would be visible to the user. Keep in mind, if there's nothing there, the user wouldn't see anything to click on. So this ahref tag can wrap around images, it can wrap around all sorts of things and make them clickable. They basically say that whatever's in the middle can be clicked on to get to a separate location. So in this case, we have a destination URL of index.html, which on most servers is the default homepage. And here you can see that the link itself would be homepage. Now, when we add links, the destination URL to separate places would have the prefix HTTP. If you are linking to a separate website, not on the same domain, the same web address, you do need to have an absolute URL. And that absolute URL needs to be the complete address. It has to start with the protocol. It can be either HTTP or HTTPS, which stands for secure, and then the pathway to which you'd like to link. So there are some other attributes, target equals underscore new. That would link and open up the target in a new tab. Here we see linking to Google and having new as that element. Now note that there are no quotes around the address here. There really should be. All attributes need quoted values. So here are the options for the target attribute. There's blank, which opens up in a new window or a new tab every time. Same as the new. There's self, which opens the link in the same window. That would be the default. Most of the time you'll see links that have just nothing, the default target, and that means that they're clicking on the link and it's opening up in the same window in your browser. So parent links is a little bit more obscure. That means that if you had already opened up the link from a separate place and linked back, it would open up that previous window. So parent, I want you to think of a situation where you have a web page, and then inside there it links, but links to a new window or tab. Well, the place from which you linked was the parent. So if you link back in the new tab, it would open up the previous window. And that's rare. I see that occasionally on e-commerce checkouts, but you don't see it too often. So a custom name, we can allow our links to have a name, a title. And that custom name will be opening up the link consistently in the same window or tab. So as long as we name that window, that parent window or whatever it's going to be, it would open up consistently in that same window or tab. A lot of these references will make a lot of sense when we get into JavaScript and we discuss window control. So in this case, we have a title attribute which equals Google, and when we mouse over that entire link, the attribute would show a tooltip which just says Google. Now this is for accessibility and to give screen readers an idea of what we're doing, because the web address may not be enough information for a screen reader to communicate exactly what that link will go to. When we want to link to an email address, what we can do is have an ahref that equals mail to, colon, and then our value. So what would happen then, it would open up the email client. Now this was friendly way back in the day when you had email clients handling your email. But with the advent of Gmail and all sorts of things like that, it's not as much user friendly. I will say this though, if you do ahref with tel colon and the phone number, it should in modern phones open up your browser on your phone and the actual phone pad. So I would refrain from using mail to, because I don't know many people left who use an email client. A lot of us are on Gmail, and that's where we stay, so our emails are very much cloud and web-based. And here's an example of the telephone. And this I find very effective, and when I scan users' code, I tend to enjoy this a little bit better than the others. I think that's going out of your way to care about the user. But one thing you could do is detect whether it's a mobile device first and then show the TEL, and you can do that with JavaScript. So, or you could do it with them. You could actually do it with CSS as well, but I would stick with the JavaScript on that one. So this would open up your messaging system, SMS : and that's also a very handy thing. But once again, I would recommend that you detect the device before you implement this. So here's another update on the difference between a relative and an absolute URL that we discussed in a previous slide. The relative URL will only work if there is a contact.html page in the same directory as the file that has this link. The second link shows a link from a file to a folder called directions and then a file called mesa_campus.html. If you don't keep this directory structure with a folder called directions and then Mesa Campus, you will have a not found error. So you want to make sure that if you're using relative URLs that your pathways are correct. Otherwise, a safe way to go is to always use an absolute URL. And to be quite honest with you, I use absolutes even for my relative links. And that just makes it, it actually helps with SEO, by the way, but it makes it pretty consistent. So don't be afraid to use absolute URLs in all your work. So this is a diagram from the text that shows relative linking and paths. Here at the top level we see Jen's Kitchen, which is the absolute root pathway of this entire website. In this pathway we see a folder called Images and a separate folder called Recipes. We also see a folder within the Recipes folder called Pasta. So when we link to this structure, let's say we wanted to link from the index page to linguini.html, we would link to recipes/pasta/linguini.html. And what will happen is if you look at the directory structure in the lower left here, that'll help you get through. And this directory structure will be communicated in almost every text editor used in web development. I use Sublime. I just drag the whole folder, Jen's Kitchen, right into Sublime, and it'll keep that pathway open, which is really nice. So you're going to learn this regardless, because when you try to link and image source things, if they're not found or not working, that's why. So it's important to have a nice view from, let's say, 30,000 feet, as they say, above this folder and file structure. And this is an instance of linking within the same directory. So here I have an index.html, and I'm linking to the About page, which is on the root level of the folder, so I would simply link to about.html. But again, I would encourage you to also try using, http://jenskitchen.com/about.html or the absolute URL for this. Now, this is an instance of linking, again, below the folder. So if I were on the index page and I wanted to link to salmon.html, I would link to the recipes folder /salmon.html, one directory below the main root. Now this is an example that I talked about a couple of slides ago where we link to several directories down. So from index, if we wanted to link to couscous, or in my previous example linguini, we would link to recipes /pasta/couscous.html. It just takes a second to get the hang of it. Once you do, you'll never worry about this the rest of your life. Now, this is an interesting thing that HTML allows us to do, and that allows us to use double dots to link to one directory above. So if I'm on salmon.html, which resides within the recipes folder, I might go to jenskitchen.com/index.html for my home logo to go back to the home page, or I could just do /index.html, and that goes one directory up. Also know that one // would keep you in the same directory, and you'll see that in your travels as well. Now, going up from 2 levels below the root, we can do /index.html if we were to link from couscous all the way to the home page. This is a lot to take in. You're really only learning a couple of things. You got to pretend you're the page that has the link. Look to your left, look to your right. If you see folders and directories, then you know the folder needs to be preceding any files that are linked below. So it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. And this is an example of linking relative to the root. Here you see a preceding / right where that red arrow is. And that means the main root, it's going to start there, which let's say is Jen's jenskitchen.com. So I can do /recipes/salmon.html, and I could do that from, let's say, the linguine page or the couscous page 3 directories down. If you have that preceding slash, you will be writing a relative URL from the root directory. And lastly, we can use anchor tags to click on specific points within a page. So in slide 1, I had mentioned that we have some scrolling pages. We have some ones that use parallax that are really long. And if you want to link from them, you would link to an ID. So if you look at point 1 here, we're identifying the destination using the ID attribute. So start H. And if I do link to hashtag start H within the same page, I would link to the ID that has start H. Now this is important in documents like glossaries, as you see before you, or FAQs, things like that, or anytime you have a long scrolling page. This would really help with a top nav. All right, so that's chapter 6 and lesson 4.